Hey guys, Static here with some important information for all you sorcerers out there regarding the Volatile Familiar and its ability to tank. As some of you may have seen in my triple threat build video, I use a pet often. Yes, even on a stamina sorcerer. The utility pets can provide to a sorcerer are beneficial not only to you but to the group as well. Running 3 DPS and 4-man content rather than a tank and 2 DPS makes for easier clears, especially in situations that have DPS checks in them, meaning that if you don't have a certain amount of damage in group, you will never be able to progress any further in that dungeon. For a sorcerer in particular, passes within the summoning skill tree allow for use of some builds and consumables that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do because mainly you don't have the health to run it. Mostly we're talking about the Expert Summoner passive here, which gives you 8% increased health while having a pet active. The new food, Dubious Cameron Throne, which is here, is amazing. And Stamina players have been waiting for this food, in particular since the introduction of its Magicka counterpart, Witch Mother's Potent Brew, which was released during the Witch event last year. The problem is, with the exception of running in PvP, where generally you have more HP to spare and you can afford to run this food, you can't run this in PvE, mainly because you don't have HP to do so. Having a pet solved that problem in 4-man content PvE for a stamina sorcerer. All that aside, there's a problem with the Volatile Familiar. I used to use it for certain bosses that could be taunted via pet to bypass the need of running a full-fledged tanking group. This was absolutely amazing. You could throw 3 full DPS tunes at a boss, provided your healer knew how to properly care for the pet using ground-based AoE heals like Healing Springs, Combat Prayer, etc. Not to mention that in trash clears, the active ability of the Familiar provided a 3-second AoE stun every 8 seconds, basically locking down the trash almost half the time. This was great for me as a Stam Sort, because I otherwise don't have a stun in my PvE toolkit, so it was nice to have. Recently, ZOS attempted to fix a very obscure bug that hardly affected anyone ever. This bug supposedly allowed your pet to gain damage if a magic sorcerer was in your group and was running Daedric Prey. This gives more damage to your pet. Now, this only affected Familiar rank 1 through 3. A fully leveled pet would never see this bug, so sure, as non-essential as it was to fix this bug, it was a bug and you needed to fix it. So good job, ZOS. You're just doing your job. Nope, just kidding. Bad job, ZOS. You broke the Volatile Familiar. What do I mean by this? I mean that it can't hold aggro anymore. You can send in the pet to get the aggro by allowing him the first light attack on the target, which is the only way your pet could hold aggro since the release of the Homestead patch, where they made changes to the pet mechanics. The difference is now that the pet will only hold aggro for about 10 seconds. And then it's just reduced to a non-contributing member of the group, really, when lo and behold, your pet just drops aggro and the boss starts picking random targets to start terrorizing. I thought maybe I was doing something wrong, but after testing, it's confirmed the Volatile Familiar does not hold aggro anymore. I'd like to show a before and after here. This is the good old days with Frank the Tank. He goes in first and he gets a light attack off, and he's going to hold the aggro. Wiko's combat praying him to heal him, plus her ritual on the ground as you see right there, and he's just going to stay up indefinitely. Now this boss has fire put down, and he's just going to keep putting it on Frank, and Frank's going to be fine with that fire. He turns like this and does a random conal towards a random member of the party, but right back onto Frank for the light attack. So that's the main aggro. He's going to have the random turn, but other than that, he has the aggro. So here we see the same scenario. Me and Wiko comes in. There's the random frontal, but he goes right back to light attacking onto Frank as he should. 10 seconds go by, and right there, Frank loses the aggro. And as you're going to see, it's just me and Wiko here. This is what happens in this fight. It's really tough to DPS him because of all the fire that's in this particular fight. So we're going to speed it up. Now, Wiko's going to go down at one point here. We're both vampires, so it's pretty tough. I do manage to get a res off, and we do manage to take him down. But I wanted to just show the drastic difference between all of that fire in one spot when you can utilize Frank and actually hold him in one spot. And just the difference is, look at this place. Look at just how much fire. We had to come to the last corner here. Every single spot in this room is filled with fire. And I wasn't taking it slow. I was trying. It's just that hard to DPS on this fight when you can't hold him still. Now the question is this a bug or is this a stealth nerf that was not mentioned in the patch notes? Because sorcerers would be at an uproar if they announced this change due to the fact that so many of us depend on the Volatile Familiar for small group and solo play particularly. I don't know, I'm just presenting the facts. The pet was altered and now it doesn't function as it did before the change. It should be mentioned that I haven't tested the tanking ability of the Clan Fear or the Matriarch. If they hold aggro, they could still be used as a tank and they should be used. But the disheartening thing about that change for a pet Sorc would be the loss of AoE pulse damage and the stun. For me as a Stam Sorc, I'm just losing the utility of the stun, as the damage was only okay. But for Magicka Sorc, like looking to tank with their pets, swapping out the Familiar for the Clan Fear is like a drastic loss in damage. The DPS the Familiar provides when scaled off a Magicka based build is very, very substantial. Now, if this goes unaddressed, what does that mean? For me personally, as a Stam Sorc, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, sure, I can't run the dubious Cameron food in PvE, so I lose sustain in that way. And I lose the utility of that awesome AoE stun in trash fights. I suppose I could still use the pet in trash, because aggro isn't that much of a factor in that scenario, but I'm still really let down that for a Stam Sorc, the extent of the Familiar's use now ends there. For Magicka Sorcs, sure, this is still going to be on your bar due to the sheer damage it provides in your rotation. But for me, it means that I'll be swapping to full tank mode when we get to a boss, and we're effectively losing 1/3 of the DPS in my group that we would typically have in the same scenario. So this stealth nerf, or bug, which, let's face it, if it is a bug, it's never going to be changed back to the way it was before. Is it that big of a deal? Well, for most players, no. But for those sorcerers who used to be able to solo content based on the functionality of the Volatile Familiar, yes, this is a deal breaker for the class in those players' eyes. I'll be fine as a Stam Sorc. Like I said, I'll just DPS to the boss and then I'll tank. It's fine. I feel bad that we have to say goodbye to Franklin here, Frank the Tank, what we call him. I mean, he's surprised so many of us in so many situations with his ability to take such a beating while allowing the rest of my groups to pour on the damage. He made certain boss fights just easy mode. Maybe that's what they're trying to prevent, I'm not sure. I mean, should Magicka Sorcs be able to solo vet ICP because their pets can tank it for them? I'm not sure. I would say that that is a testament to the versatility of a sorcerer, and it is by no means easy to do such things. It takes a long time to learn to command and heal your pets effectively. So, taking the skill required to use the pet as a tank into consideration, I personally think this change is a bad change in every aspect. The question is, what do you think? Should the Volatile Familiar be able to hold aggro, provided he's sent in to get the first hit on a boss and then carefully healed throughout the fight? Or do you think that this was an exploit and that ZOS is just finally implementing pets in the manner in which they intended all along? Is it okay to make changes like this that could break players' gameplay without admitting that you're making this change? It's hard to say, but I'd like to hear everyone's opinions to this unannounced change. I'd like to say thanks to Frank for all the good times. I mean, he never complained when I was just abusing him for my own personal gain. That's all any owner of a Daedric creature could really ask for, right? Please like, subscribe, and comment down below with your thoughts. I appreciate you guys checking out the discussion, and I look forward to hearing some of your opinions on the matter. So we'll see you around. Have a good one.